Hello, everyone. My name is Kiki. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the host of the Bleeding Metal podcast. Welcome to a new episode. I am here with my co-host.
Hello, my name is Pia. My pronouns are also she, her.
And today we have a lovely guest, one of our favorite guests of the podcast. We've had you on 3 or 4 times, maybe?
Yep, over the last 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, yes, 10 years. This year is our 10th anniversary. But yes, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Lindsay Schoolcraft, and I guess you could say I do identify as a she, her. I'm just a musician from Canada. That's me, and I'm so stoked to be here this morning. So,
thank you so much for joining us and for giving us some of your time again. We've seen you, or you and I have met all over the world. And we were just reminiscing about that a few episodes ago because, as I was just saying, today we are celebrating this year, we are celebrating our 10th anniversary. We weren't always the Bleeding Metal podcast. We started as Metal and High Heels. And that's kind of how we met because we had the pleasure to interview you back then already, but I will never forget, and I was telling this story in one of the past few episodes, that the first impression of you I had was beautiful and amazing and so lovely because we were going to Metal Female Voices Fest from the hotel to the festival on the first day, on the Friday of 2012, it must have been.
Wow.
And I remember we were in this van and I was the only non-artist person in this van. And I went in there and sat there and you came in and sat beside me and we didn't know each other at all. And you just gave me your hand and we were like, hi, I'm Lindsay. And I was like, oh my God. A little starstruck, very mind blown and very, very moved. It was really nice.
Oh, well, congratulations on your 10 years, first of all. And I remember that moment so clearly because everyone on the bus was in Eve's Apple, but I didn't recognize you. So I just had to say hi because I just wanted you to feel welcome because that was an intense group of female singers in metal. So it was really awesome to have you there. Wow. I remember that like yesterday. How's it been 10, 11 years? It's wild.
Right? It is wild. And you're right. There was so much energy. Everybody was super hyped. Everything was just starting. The festival weekend was just starting. So everything was all good spirits. And shortly after, we had you in the backstage, Pia and I, and we did our first interview. I'm hoping to find that still in our YouTube channel and link it in the description so that people can reminisce with us as well.
Yeah, it's I was going to say, I think we were just so hyped because it was the first time anything like that was ever done, where it was like a group of female singers from all over the world just there to perform on a Friday. It was by far the strangest thing, but it worked. And I think that's why also just it was a group of 10, 20 people who had been talking together online, having so much in common, and then finally meeting in person for the first time was just like, holy crap. It was a lot. It was a lot.
But does Eve's Apple still exist? The community?
I don't think so. I think Lisa ended it. It just became too much to manage, and we all needed to go our separate ways. But the crazy thing is that we all stay in touch with somebody. There's somebody somewhere that we're still buddies, we're still friends. I see all of their posts, so it's I think that the spirit of that community never went away.
Yes, and that was the first time, but the last time we saw you, you and I met in Quito, the beautiful city in Ecuador where I come from.
Not from
And
Finland, like Metal Hammer said.
yes, that was super funny.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, apparently somebody thought I come from Finland. I was flattered, but I will email about that correction.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we will link the article maybe in the show notes as well, in the description. It is about the interview I was just telling you about, Lindsay. The interview we had with Lisa at Tuska Festival, and they picked up on what she said there, which was very lovely, that she was an activist first and a musician second. That's how she sees herself. So that was very nice and interesting. But yeah, as I was saying, we were in Ecuador, and it was funny because I remember I came to talk to you at your hotel, and that was on the mountain in a city that's already 2,800 meters above the ocean level. So I'm guessing for someone who's not really used to it, it must have been pretty difficult.
Yeah, I remember landing and like getting there by plane and then needing an oxygen mask. And then the next morning, is it the cacao tea? Is that what it's called? We had to have a certain tea.
Coca. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it, coca tea. And we had to have the tea just to like kind of stabilize our systems. But yeah, it was so good to see you, but I remember being like dizzy the first day I was there, but it was just beautiful there. And it was crazy that you were there too. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was a crazy, cool coincidence, though. So yeah, catch us up a little. What have you been up to since then? That was in May 2019.
Right. So after that year, I decided to part ways with Cradle of Filth. And at that point, my solo career was like taking off in a way. Like I put out my first album and it got nominated for an award in my country. And then the dandy pandy hit, the good old pandemic hit all of us. And it kind of forced me to, well, it definitely forced me to stay inside, but it made me kind of rethink like what it is that I really want to do. And, you know, during that time, I stepped more into the music producer role and I put out a harp album. And then I think in 2021, I did like 4 albums that year, which included wrapping up the composition for my black metal band Antiqua. I worked with Coldbound. I helped out another artist, but that album, they decided to scrap the album last minute. And I was like, it's okay. It was still a good experience, you know, regardless. And yeah, I've just been, you know, and I guess it was, what was it? Was it 2021? I can't remember. Yeah, 2021. I also started my Patreon. And through my community there, we took some old B-sides that I had and we started making like our own little album on Patreon of just like all the non-metal weird music that I like to do. It's mainly influenced by trip hop. That's been me. And then, you know, this year things have changed again, but I have been prioritizing, you know, new music, singles and music videos and slowly working towards that next solo album. So it's been a wild journey since 2019, a very wild journey.
Right. And I can totally relate to that feeling of not knowing what year was what, because the pandemic years are all a blur.
Yes, it's pandemic.
I still don't know what year it is or what day it is. I'm like, what zodiac sign are we in right now? Okay, it's Leo season. Okay, sick. All right, cool. It's the summer. And that's it. Like, it just, there's no snow on the ground. Okay, it must be a summer month. Like, I just can't figure it out. Like the other day I was like, wait, 2018 was 5 years ago. Like that took me a minute to process. Like, oh my goodness. But yeah, that pandemic taught me a lot. It was good. It was a really hard time for everyone, but it allowed me to go in and really think about who I am and what I want out of life. So I'm very grateful for that.
Absolutely. I think it took a toll on us, especially mental health wise. And that is one of the things that we want to talk about. Well, today's topic is a mixture of both mental and physical health. And we wanted to ask you about your experiences as well. But the thought that triggered this conversation and wanting to talk to you about all this was actually the news that came 3 weeks ago from Floor Jansen and Nightwish. They canceled a few tour dates, or at least one, I think, with Nightwish. And Floor canceled a few of her solo performances because of her health. And we're talking about an incredibly strong and powerful woman who 10, 12 years ago stopped the work with her band Revamp because of burnout.
Yeah.
And after that, she joined Nightwish and started working a lot again. Had a first child, then she had cancer. She got cancer free, and pregnant with her second child. She was touring both with Nightwish, with this huge band, and with her solo project, her solo music. So that is quite a bit on her plate.
Yeah, she's a busy lady.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, it's completely understandable how the decision in general was made to cancel all those dates and to prioritize her own health. But honestly, it triggered this thought in my head of, you already had burnout once.
Yep.
Does it really take for us humans, or how does it really take for us humans to learn that we need our health? Right?
Oh, it's hitting rock bottom. And and I listen, I've never had children. I don't have children, never been pregnant. But I think for Floor, with her pregnancy, I think that was just like the easy decision there, is to protect the health of her unborn child. And that is completely acceptable and understandable. But in any case, like it was very, very hard for me to recognize that I had burnout and I needed to leave Cradle of Filth to prioritize my health. Because I left at the end of 2019, but I started feeling it. Like I really started feeling the burnout in 2018. And I stayed for an extra year and a half, roughly, because I didn't want to let down the fans. I didn't want to let down the band. I should have left in 2018. Like I already felt it. I felt sick. But it took me forcing myself to hit rock bottom, which I did at the end of 2019, to be like, oh crap, like I need to prioritize this or I'm going to die. Like I am so sick right now. And the breaking point for me was, it was a bit of a logistical mess because, we were told we were going to have time off, and then we were thrusted into another world tour in 2019, and we just did a world tour in 2018. So 2 world tours back to back, being away from home like 5 to 7 months at a time is a lot to ask people, especially when the second one you're thrown into is so last minute. Like I found out in a month, like I had a month to pack up my life again, and then I had to go on another world tour, and I'm like, holy crap. Wow. So yeah, it was a bit intense. So it was just like the moment I knew it and I had to send the email and tell the band I had to leave was we just did 2 world tours in 2 years, and then there's this pressure to write this next album, which would have been like the third one with that lineup. And I went to sit down at the piano, and I was numb. I was tired, and nothing came out. Nothing. Like I couldn't attach. I couldn't connect with that part of me that is creative and loves making music. It wasn't there. And also you have to understand, like in 2018, I wrapped up my solo album. It didn't come out till a year later. And, it made me realize that you can't just keep going and going and going and not resting. You have to recharge your batteries mentally, physically, creatively. Like if you don't do these things, you just get so sick. And, I'm sure with Floor, she had that with Revamp. And she needed to take a step back and realize that. But I think she probably saw the signs recently. I don't know. I can't speak for her. It's her life and her story. And she was probably just like, I'm not going down this road again, because I know what happens. And when you have an unborn child involved, like that's, you don't want to do that to them either, because you're literally carrying another life to fruition. But yeah, I think it teaches you a lot. And then of course, after that happened, I was in therapy for like 8 months, and it taught me a lot about myself, and it's like a childhood trauma that forces you to be a people pleaser and burn out. I was like, holy crap, like this is not just a current me thing. This has been going on since I was a little kid, so.
Right.
I think it's also hard as a musician, or I could imagine that it is difficult to let that thought sink in, that there might be something too much, because you are often working on projects. So okay, I have to make it until the end of the tour, which is in 2 weeks, and then I can relax. It's going to be fine. I'm going to record an album, and then the project is done. I'm going to be fine after that. So you don't have this constant pressure of one thing or of several things at the same time. It's different pressure with different things to do. Maybe you're on the road, maybe you have to write music. So I could imagine that because of that, you realize later or very late that you have a problem in general with being burned out.
Yeah. And the whole thing taught me, like, you have to work in seasons. You have to have a creative season, and then a building season, which like you're getting ready to launch, and they have promotional season. And promotional seasons can be releasing the album and going on tour, whatever that looks like for the individual artist. And then you need to come home and rest. And I think a lot of metal artists are forgetting about that rest period. Like, take a month off, be alone with yourself, be with your family, go on a vacation if you can afford it. But, I've actually moved away from working with anyone who doesn't respect my boundaries to give myself a rest season, because I actually looked at the past, and it was mainly my issues with management, whether for myself or a different act I was working for. They just wanted to work you into the ground and squeeze every penny out of you. And it's like, that's not okay. Like, we're all humans here, and we're allowed to take time to rest and breathe between the big projects that we do. So I think that I thought that was really unhealthy, like how, the team around you is expecting you to be this robot, this machine. And it's like, you also have to like tell other people, like my favorite word is no. No is just like, it's so empowering. I'm just like, no, you know what I mean? Just like, no, absolutely not. Because it really sets that boundary of like, no one pushes me around or tells me how I should be living my life or doing my career or spending my time. So I learned that the hard way, definitely.
Not every musician, but some want to make a living of their music, and things have changed that you do not earn money with CDs or with albums. You earn the money with being on tour and selling merch, and that's maybe an extra pressure to go on tour again very soon, because that's where you get the most money from.
Yeah, I know a lot of people feel that, especially like I don't understand the whole people don't make money off of CDs and vinyl, because I've made most of my money off of CDs and vinyl owning my web shop. So I think it's maybe because of the middleman of the record label and the distributors taking a cut is why artists feel that way. But me doing a direct to my fans, I've had no issue. But I also understand, especially in the current climate and economy where there's all this inflation and there's these huge merch cuts, on merch when you're on tour, like it's insane. It's not only hitting the artists, it's also hitting the fans. And I've noticed, and I've talked to a lot of Patreon creators, that since live music opened up like spring of last year, like globally really opened up, fans have moved away from Patreon so they can afford to go to the concerts, because that is what they want to prioritize and where they want to be. And, it's like, it would be cool to go back on tour. I'm not there yet. But I'm also not beating myself up for not doing it. And, I still work in the music industry. I have full-time work, which is fantastic. But the thing that people don't understand is, well, they do and they don't, is how exhausting and like physically, mentally exhausting touring is. And I have so much respect for people who still go out there and do it, but some acts have this huge team around them where like they don't have to worry about the day-to-day logistics and the is getting set up on stage, whereas like a lot of the smaller bands, like they're doing everything themselves. And I caution them to take care of themselves and not burn out, because when you have to do these 16-hour days and you have to wear like multiple hats, that's what does it to you, I find. So
And we could see that very clearly also in the pandemic, because so many bands came up with a new album and afterwards said, we had so much time for that. And that's why the album is special to us. And we have the feeling that it's one of our best albums, because there was no pressure on releasing it very fast and go on tour again, because it was just not possible and everyone had to rest and maybe lay also on the creativity to do something.
yeah, I felt that too. I really did. I mean, I kept doing metal that didn't change, like with Antiqua and with Coldbound. But also I was like, you know what, I have all this time and creativity I need to put somewhere. So I started working with a trip hop artist and I started doing my own stuff. And I think some of the stuff on Patreon is some of the most heartfelt, honest music I've ever made, even though it's not heavy metal, which is crazy. But there's like, we just have this oversaturation of all these albums coming out right now because so many people did pandemic albums, which is wild. But it's good that people were able to create without that pressure. I think when you're writing on this hard deadline and you're stressed out and you're thinking about you have to make your numbers and you have to make money, I think that's when you failed to do the music service that you're creating. You really have to bring it from a place of, I love this and I want to make this, and it's timeless and it shouldn't have to have this hard timeline. If you need that extra time, you should be able to take it. But sadly, there are a lot of managers and labels out there that are not that considerate to people's creativity.
Right. And it's just not sustainable to work through exhaustion and illness like that. Not only, I think it's not sustainable for, well, obviously anybody, but I see it a lot in the, in normal jobs, quote unquote, in companies where the employees are not appreciated and are not given enough time off, or their hours are not respected, or they are just more and more productivity is demanded from them, and overtime, etc., is a thing. That is not sustainable for any industry, to have workers that are coming to work, with the flu and spreading it, and then more people need to rest, and all of that. And I think in the music industry, as you were saying, it's a 24/7 thing. Especially when touring, I can imagine you of course don't get to clock out and get some rest. And yet we're seeing, especially this summer, because of the pandemic, I have the feeling that a lot of bands and artists are just trying to make up for the time lost and are putting tour after festival season after tour, and they haven't had weeks off since last year. Maybe the autumn of last year. And we saw, for example, Spirit Box, I saw twice this summer over here in Germany. And first of all, I was a little disappointed that they actually canceled their Tuska appearance, the festival where I was going anyway. And then I understood that they might not have thought that through, that and not to mention everything that came before, but just to go to Finland for 2 festivals, doing a weekend after headline shows in Germany and before their headline tour of the UK might not be enough time in between. But it was obviously super understandable that they canceled, more so afterwards when Courtney posted something about having had bronchitis.
Right.
Josh broke his foot on tour, and Mike had emergency surgery the day before the concert here in my city where I saw them, and they played. And
that's insane.
It is totally insane because they started their tour in North America in, I think, January or February, and they kept touring. Then they were in the spring in France with Ghost. Then they started all of the festival season here, and they just now, and we're in July, ended the UK tour, and I think now they can finally rest. But
Which is insane, yeah.
It is insane. It's just such a long time right after the other, of tour after tour, and then all the sickness. Of course, you're going to get sick at some point if you're working so extremely hard, and then working through the sickness. And I'm saying this with the deepest respect and admiration, but I also want to see them next year and or 5 years from now. So I really hope that they take care of themselves too.
And that's the thing. I have been super sick on tour. I never got a day off. I've been up on stage with the flu, like, you know, which I don't think is fair, but you have to power through it. And it makes the illness prolong itself, and it doesn't make things better. But you don't realize how strong you are until you go on tour, and you have to go through all of these things. And then you're like, well, I survived it. It sucked, but I did it. But I think when you have that end goal in mind of like, I'm doing this because this is what I wanted to do. I'm doing this for the fans. I do it because I love the music. It takes the edge off of it. You know, it really does when you're in that higher place of purpose. And that's what kept me going. And, I read that statement. I mean, I had to tour for 6 months after I had bronchitis. And it's like the worst thing a singer can get is a lung infection of any sort, because it takes, especially when I found like, oh yeah, singing more of the pop voice, no problem. But that the opera stuff was like, you really need that lung capacity, and it's not there. And you're like, oh, well, this sucks. I have to take more breaths between takes. But it's just like you have to keep going, and I'm sure they'll get a rest period, and they're such a major band now. I know they have a lot of support and a lot of people taking care of them. So they're in a very privileged position, and I know they know that. They're very humble people. But yeah, it's just, you have to do what you have to do, as long as hopefully their business team gives them a chance to rest for a little bit from all the ailments that they gained on tour.
Yeah. Wow. It was just very, I don't know, it left me absolutely speechless when I realized all of that, because we just saw the pictures and we're like, oh, nice. And the tour is approaching, and I'm finally going to see them soon. And then, wow.
Yep. No, it happens to all of us. Some of us are vocal about it and some of us are not. I tended not to tell people when I was sick, because the band I used to be in, a lot of their fan base was extremely elitist. So they'd be like, oh, you were so bad tonight. And I was like, because you were sick. And it's like, screw you. Sometimes it's good to keep things private so people can't weaponize it against you. But those aren't really fans. That I don't think that's a true fan. I think the true fans are the ones who are like really supportive for whatever you're going through, essentially, obviously within reason. But I hope I make sense.
Yeah. Yes, you do. And that is just, I'm guessing that is also, or what we've been talking about so far, is more the physical part of the exhaustion, of the burnout. And I think we all know to some extent what it means to keep running on the fumes, right? And just power through with little sleep and just through some sickness, or just, as Pia was saying, to this goal when afterwards you will hopefully be able to rest, and etc. And as you were also saying, right, it has that maybe slightly empowering effect of, I did that. I can still do that. But I also think there is a long-lasting effect as well. I don't know. Maybe it's only me, but I'm finding recovering more and more difficult.
Yeah, I remember near the end there, like I had arthritis. I had like autoimmune arthritis because I was so stressed out. And I was like, I've never, like, it was in my wrists, my ankles, and my sternum. And I'm like, I don't understand where this is coming from. But, obviously there was anxiety and depression that's going to come with it. And some people can just have high functioning depression. It's a thing. And, it's like, oh, everything's fine, but you're not really, because you have so much anxiety, like you're not eating, which is also not good. That was a huge thing coming out of it. Like I've gained 10 pounds. I've been heavier than I was before, but it's like, yeah, but you weren't eating. Like you have to understand you're healthy now. This is where your body wants to be at, even though you're still physically fit. And that was a huge adjustment. But there are long-term effects. Like my adrenal glands will never be the same. Like I have adrenal fatigue. Like it has these, your body takes a hit in certain ways. And there's these, I guess, consequences that you have to suffer later on in life because you put yourself through that. And, I'm still in adrenal fatigue recovery. I'm in and out of therapy because of just the situations, and then learning to, I guess it's more so, I find that therapy, you can't do the growth work if you haven't healed. And sometimes these moments come up where it's like, oh man, I haven't healed. I need to go back and heal this so I can grow from it and be stronger. Like you put someone in growth therapy that hasn't healed, it's just not going to work. Right. So yeah, I guess I call them tune-ups for my mental health. But it's a long road out of recovery, because I think burnout, that, like I said before, there's a trauma around it. There's something that you're trying to prove to people, or yourself, that comes from not feeling like you're enough. And that also needs to be nipped in the butt too. But as someone who's, recovering from burnout and recovering from being a workaholic and an alcoholic and all of that stuff, I've really learned to downsize my life and not take on all these projects to please other people. And I'm learning that this year. I'm like, okay, this is the last year. I'm like saying yes when I'm happy and holding my word and seeing people through a project. I'm like, after this year, I'm just going to work for myself, because it's just easier. And, you can't be going all the time being pulled in all these different directions. And I'm in a place where I've realized no one works as hard as I do. And that's not, no disrespect to my clients, but I work really hard and I work really efficiently and really organized. And when you are in an environment where there's different working types, it can burn you out very quickly. No matter how hard you work or how much you communicate, if you're working with someone who's a bit of a organization disaster, it's like, okay, like this is a lot, you know what I mean? So I'm learning to just be like, I need, like, it sounds selfish, but I need to prioritize myself and my happiness and my mental health more than anyone else's. And I think going into 2024, it's like, okay, that's enough. Like I have proven that I can do all the things. I have helped you to this point, but like I just got to take care of me, because that, if I don't, my next album is never going to get out, so yeah, I think we forget that like burnout and being a workaholic comes from making everyone else happy. And you really need to turn inward and be like, what makes me happy and what's going to get me where I want to go? Because it's, it sounds like a selfish pursuit, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, no, it's my music, and my music is for other people too. I make it for me, but it's not that selfish when you think about it. If you're like, the end goal is to get it out there to help people. So I rest peacefully at night knowing that.
Hell yeah. Right. That gave me many ideas, because as an alumnus of therapy myself, or rather, a person who also seeks therapy again and again, I can absolutely relate to that. It is, it's mostly some sort of trauma that we keep healing from that makes for the weirdest behavior patterns. And just recently I was doing this, yesterday, I was doing this meditation, and it goes hand in hand with that thought, because in the end, you are the one who's been there for you always, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have seen yourself at your worst and at your best, and you have also achieved your best success moments.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the person who will also be the only person who will always be there for you until you die, as we will all, and
It's so
since you
true.
were born, and who never ever will abandon you no matter what. And it was this gratitude meditation that was very, very beautiful. And also it had this connotation of course, that is the person, the only person you should be doing your best towards. Like, the person you have to be the kindest to is yourself.
Agreed.
And so, yeah, everything that you have said just now, Lindsay, is very, very wise and absolutely admirable. And we need more people to think, to do the self work and the growth and the healing, and to be able to prioritize themselves and their well-being so that they can keep fulfilling their dreams and life purpose. And we are lucky that in metal, in music, in art, that has an impact in so many more people around the world and makes the world a better place, and lets fans and us fans relate and enjoy all of those beautiful things. And of course, I'm aware, and I always want to blame the system.
Yeah, fair.
That it's not only our own trauma, right? It's also the fact that we live in a capitalistic society, which means we have this societal pressure of being productive and making something with our lives, with ourselves, especially something that brings in money, especially because without money you cannot pay rent
Right.
and healthcare. So that is a vicious circle. You can be, depending on what part of the planet you are living in, you might be sick and need to stop working, but that actually just, means you need more money to pay more bills. And, it's a very difficult situation. So it is a very difficult, or rather a very exploitative system
Right.
that we're living in right now. And I can imagine it must be very difficult to balance all of those external pressures with your own personal motivations.
Absolutely. And I'm still struggling with that to this day, finding the balance between security and doing what I love. And I know that if I went through life making everyone else happy, by the end of my life, I would have a lot of regret, because it's like I didn't necessarily do what I wanted to do with my life. But I also, I think this maybe came with the pandemic, but a lot of my friends have said, like, I've entered my 40s early, and I really believe that, because I've come to a place of just a lot of humility and gratitude. And I think with visiting countries like Guatemala and Indonesia and seeing how people live there, it's like, yes, our society is flawed and it's broken in a lot of ways because it's created by humans. And, there's that human error that soaks into everything. But we're also like, what we have is what people in these third world countries dream of. And I've always just tried to be like, okay, it's not perfect, but I need to make the best of this situation and what I have. And I think once I let go of caring about what other people thought of me, realizing that, like, you've got your family, they're there. You got your friends who really care about you. They're like your true friends, not just like acquaintances, like your true friends who love you unconditionally. And I know I have some amazing fans who are always going to be there, like, no matter what. Once I was just like, I got to stop worrying about what other people need and what other people think, is when I kind of, I do have technically a corporate job now. It's in the music industry, and I love it because I get to help artists. But I've never felt any shame around it, and I've kind of come to a place where I don't feel bad for taking some time out and away from music to take care of myself financially and make sure my future is more secure, and flexing this, the skills on my resume. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I've just identified that we all do go through seasons. And I also, I recognize that I am in a country where most of our healthcare is free. We pay for it through our taxes. And I'm forever grateful that my grandparents chose to live here, and no offense to America, but not America. Because I would still be in I had cervical cancer a few years back, and I would have been tens of thousands of dollars in debt if I didn't live in Canada. And I look at these things and I'm like, you know what, like it's not easy and it's not fair, but it's my responsibility on how I react to this and how I navigate my way through this. So I just find that once I really got a hold of my schedule and not beating myself up is when I actually, became very productive. I'm like, now's the time for work. Now's the time for music. Now's the time for play. Now's the time for exercise. And, it doesn't really bother me anymore these days. And with mentoring younger artists, I see my old self in them, where it's like, I haven't established myself yet. I haven't proved myself yet. And I am a big anxious ball of mess, and I just want to do all the things. And I'm like, whoa, like slow down, like one thing at a time, kiddo, and that just comes with age. But yeah, I've made peace with it, and I'm not too worried about anything these days. I think we're just all really grateful to have gotten through the pandemic, and it didn't, like we all lost someone, and the fact that we're still here is like, damn, like we survived that. I think we're good. So yeah, that's kind of my view on that whole topic.
Very cool. Do you mind telling us a little more about this new job of yours? It sounds very interesting.
Sure, you guys are I was actually gonna make a post about it today or tomorrow. So I've been hired on, I guess I don't know how to say it like professionally. I'm a digital marketer, digital advertiser. I went to school for it. I love it. The school I went for specifically specialized in music, and the person who created the course and teaches it is in heavy metal. So it was like a no-brainer. This job opportunity opened up, and I guess you could say it's like I'm a freelancer hired by this company, but I work for Century Media Records in the US as their digital advertiser. And nice. I absolutely love it. It's so much fun, and I get to work with bands that I'm a huge fan of. So that's just it's been such a joy for me to, I'm there and I'm helping them find new fans. Essentially, like I have the job of what like the record label is supposed to do. It's kind of terrifying because it's like Lindsay, you have one of the most important jobs at the record label, and that is finding these bands new fans. That's what the record label is supposed to do. So I'm like, shit. So it's a big responsibility, and it's a lot of work, and I had a big learning curve. Like I'm actually at the end of my first 3 months, and I'm really like chilling out right now. Like I'm only working half days, and I'm like I'm self-caring so hard, like spa nights and just watching Netflix with my cat, because the first 2 months was like, okay, you're working, but you're back in school, but you're figuring out how to coordinate all of this and organize it. And it was like, oh my God, wow. It was so much. And of course, my previous commitments in between that, like I went and worked on a song with a new producer. I drove down to the States, and I'm just like, this is chaos, but like I'm doing exactly what I want with my life. But I went into this role. It wasn't like I need money and I'm going to make money. It was never the first priority. It was like, hey, I've got this specialized skill that helps artists, and I get to go here and I get to help Century Media's bands find new fans in North America. Like that is so sick. And the staff there is amazing. I have the coolest boss in the world, which I'll go to family gatherings and everyone's complaining about their work and their bosses, and I'm like, can't relate. Like I love my boss, so I wake up every day grateful for her. And that's the new job, and I'm proud of it. Like, and I say that with a lot of humility. It's just something that like I never saw coming, but it makes sense because I'm a giant marketing nerd. I love marketing. I love data analytics. I love just doing the nerdy thing.
Mhm.
So that's been taking up most of my summer, along with a few new songs here and there. That's just been a really wild summer. But I can't believe it's been 3 months. Like, it just feels like last week I started working for them. But yeah, it's cool shit. I'm really happy.
That is so cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
You just mentioned new songs that you're working on. So when can we expect new releases from you? And from which project?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I have a few more songs to go on Patreon. So I released this really dark ballad on Patreon last month, I think. I don't know what month it is anymore. And yeah, like, if anyone's curious, on Patreon we have like 6 or 7 songs now that's part of like a new album, but it's very, like I said, very trip hop. It's not like pop, trip hop. It's not heavy metal at all. It has live strings. It's dark. It's more of like, what our favorite symphonic metal bands have done with ballads. Like Nightwish's Meadows of Heaven, like stuff like that. It's just more of the chill side of symphonic metal, with my favorite influences. So there's that, but I don't want to give away too much because it's a big deal and I'm very excited about it. But I went and worked with this producer in New York, and we did this one song together, and it went so well. I was like, okay, well, this is the new sound and direction of my next album, but we need a transition single because I have my old sound, and I have a song that I wrote this year that I'm really excited about, but it doesn't, like, you have these songs that just don't belong on an album. Like, it's just like, this is it. This is one standalone single. So now I'm bringing that song to them, and we're going to go ahead and produce it. And I have a whole music video idea that, like, I can't ditch. I'm like, if I ditch this project, because I've ditched so many music video ideas because I'm like, oh, it's too hard, it's too much money. It's like, no, I am not holding that attitude in my mind. I'm going to go ahead with this, and I'm going to do everything I can to make this happen. That's, I don't know when it's going to be out, but I'm working towards that. But yeah, it's just my music making life is a big giant mess, but as of next year, it will make sense. But yeah, I just, there's that. And then I don't know how much longer we're going to have to wait, because people are people and they need time and life happens. But, I'm still just kind of waiting on Antiqua to finish writing the album, and then we'll go from there. But I'm not holding my breath for that. It happens when it happens. It's really hard when you have like this super group of like musicians in 5 different countries with, like, they're in other bands and they're touring, and it's like,
Damn.
it's, we really like a challenge apparently. So I'm just letting that happen when it happens. But yeah, I decided to really, I've just been a music making machine for over a decade, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go have a nerdy big girl job for a bit and just make music when the time and the energy allows it. And it's actually been really good for me. I think it's sometimes okay to just take a break from the music making part, because I think after, it was just this past weekend, I was talking with Chris Dudley and Under Oath. I went to see them, and he's just like, he's doing film scores all the time, and he's like a music making monster. And he was like, he's like, respect, like, it's good to take that break and recharge your creative batteries. And I said, yeah, I was like, I said that, the other day was the first time I had the itch to make music again, because I have this piano ballad that I'll put out on Patreon before Christmas, and it's unfinished. And I'm like, I haven't sat down and just written a piano ballad beginning to end, like a full piano performance with just like one vocal line, like old school Amy Lee style. And I'm like, I miss that. So it was like, it was good to be like, oh, I really do love this, and I miss it, because when you've had burnout and you're just like, go, 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 you kind of forget to tap into your natural instincts and that urge to want to do something. It's like, I have to do it. But we never stop to think, oh, but do I want to do it? Do I want to do it? And when I'm in a place of like, I want to do it, it makes me very excited, because I know the song is going to have so much love and vision in it. So Yeah, it's I appreciate Pia, I appreciate you asking like what's going on with the music, but it's a hot mess.
You were just mentioning, talking about vision, you were just mentioning the music video. And it was also just, you just posted about an anniversary, the anniversary of the music video of Savior, if I'm not mistaken, the one with Cody Johnstone.
Yeah, Cody, yeah, my homie. Yes, we filmed it July 20th. We filmed it on Chester's passing in like Chester Bennington is who I'm. It was just weird because the whole day I was thinking about Lincoln Park and Chester, and we were listening
Mm-hmm.
to their music on set. And then at the end of the day, there was mention like, "Oh, Chester passed today." I'm like, "That's so weird," because I was thinking of him the whole time I was doing this music video because it was like my first music video as a solo artist. It was like a big, big deal. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it didn't come out until September in 2019, but I just can't believe it's been 4 years. But that was very like
Yeah.
we planned that one for a long time, but sadly, I like storyboards. I am a child of the 90s. I am a product of like cinematic music videos. And I'm actually going to do something completely artsy that I've never done before that it won't include any musical performance. And this is the
Ooh.
influence of my best friend Zenwar, who's a Nabla Viscaris. He's just an artist through and through because we did that music video for our black metal project. It was for the B-side. It was for a single that was completely like folk music and sang in Romanian, which is like where I'm from. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a storyboard. There was no musical performance. Like it was just like you're watching this thing unfold. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that with my music. It's a heavy song, but it has a story behind it. And I don't want to have a musical performance. I just want this like cinematic thing going on. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's I'd say he has a bad influence on me, but it's a good influence. So I was like, no, like I'm gonna dare to dream this up and just make it happen because it excites me. Like I'm really excited
Yes.
about it, and I want to be able to do the things that make me excited. And I really had a shitty mindset before of like, oh, I can't do it. It's gonna be too expensive. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna take too much time. And it's like I need to squash this shitty narrative in my head and be like, no,
Mm-hmm.
it's possible. It'll happen when it happens, and it's gonna be great, and you can do it. It's like, like I, I have this joke with my friends out here, because I toured Russia multiple times, and there was this one time that, you know, we had some struggles in Russia, and I said it again this weekend. I'm like, you know what? If I can shit in a hole in Russia, I can do anything. If I can shit in a hole in Russia and not fall in, I can do anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yes.
fine. So yeah, I've been through some shit literally and literally and figuratively. And yeah, I think that we are our own worst critics and our own worst enemies, and we really self-sabotage with this narrative that's in our head. And that's just been
Mm-hmm.
my goal the whole pandemic, is to be like, don't hold yourself back from the things that you really want to do that make you happy just because it seems hard or all these other made up excuses in your head. Start, start trying to do it. And I won't lie, like I have wanted to do things and I have tried to do things that have failed. I have failed 90% more than I have succeeded. But it's like at least you can say, well, I tried, and
Mm-hmm.
okay, it didn't come to fruition, but oh well, that's kind of been my mindset's very different than it was 4 or 5 years ago, which is I'm really grateful for.
Yeah. And in the end, you always learn something from it.
Hmm.
So that sounds cool. And it sounds really cool. The whole idea of not having the musical part or the music performance part in the video. We don't get many of those anymore.
Yeah, I'm so bitter and jaded sometimes, and I say that in a sarcastic way. Like I'm so tired of seeing the usual music video where the
Mm-hmm.
band feels like they need to perform. And yes, I know my music video before was me performing. Both times it was the band and it was me in this fairy like field with my harp for my other album. And it's like I just want to see more cool things. I just want to make cool art. I don't want to feel like, I don't want to feel the pressure of having the standard of what is expected, because I think that also quashes creativity and, you know, what people have for vision. I think it's like, if you want to do something completely outlandish that you think is cool, you should just go for it. You know, why do what everyone else is doing? You're just going to fade in the background noise. It's just like another band doing the exact same thing as everyone in your genre. So I was like, no, like, I know I'm an artist, and I know I have a lot of vision, and I think I should just follow my heart, no matter how expensive or what people are going to think. I just don't care anymore. Like, I feel like I've entered my Bjork era. Of course, I won't go full up Bjork, but
Nice.
she's my role model, and she's had that influence on me too. Like, she just doesn't care. She's like, I'm making this, and you can like it or you can leave. And I'm like, yo, that's what I need to start doing. So I'm definitely there. You guys might see some weird stage outfits for me in the future, but I don't care anymore. It's like, at the end of the day, I have to make myself happy as an artist. So that's where it's at.
I love it. I look forward to that video and to talking about it on Twitch.
Yes, I can't wait. It's going to be good.
Yes. To wrap up our time, do you want to tell us a little bit about your Patreon and what you do on there?
Sure. I appreciate you asking. I've had it for over 2 years now, and we have a lot going on. Every 3 months, there is a song from the archives, and we're actually getting to the end of that this year. I don't know what I'm going to do for music next year. Maybe I'll just continue to put out piano ballads. I don't know what next year is going to look like, but we're at the end of that, and that's going to be a full album. But on there, I also have a podcast. It's very short. It's about 20-minute episodes. It's kind of hard when you don't have a co-host to keep the conversation going. And they write in, like, they want to know these certain things, and I'll tell a story and I'll record an episode. So I've got that. I've been teasing clips of the next Heavy album on there. And I also did a performance in Montreal earlier this year with strings, and I've been slowly releasing the footage of that over Patreon. And at the higher tiers, we have a hangout every month, and it's really fun. And we just drink coffee and tell stories and make a playlist together. So I love my Patreon. It's just this really, really cool little community. It's like our corner of the internet. And, you know, we're from all over the place, like New Zealand, Australia, parts of Asia, obviously Europe, North America, South America. It's just, it's really cool. I'm really, really grateful for my patrons and having that community. And, you know, I do my best to stay in touch, obviously, with the new corporate job. It's been a struggle to find the time, but they are so excited for me, and they, you know, they're happy to hear from me when they hear from me. So it's been good. I like it. I'm very grateful that I have it, and the people who are there. It's the best little support system and community I could ever ask for.
That's very nice. Cool. We will link that in the description as well, so everybody can check it out. And I think that's it for today.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for your time. And also thank you for opening up about your own experience with burnout and all of the interesting stories about your life.
Oh, of course. If my mistakes can make someone else's life easier and prevent them from making the same dumb mistakes I've made, then yes, sure. Happy to share the stories.
Yeah, I think we can all, musician or not musician, we can all learn from that. We can all learn to take better care of ourselves, to not keep running on the fumes, to treat our bodies a little bit better, and also to give the same courtesy to everybody else, which means, yes, even your idols need rest. So let them cancel a few shows from time to time when it's an emergency like that.
It's disappointing, but it's also like, you know, there's been many shows that I was supposed to go through that got canceled. I'm like, I get it. I've done it. So I just hope that fans can be more considerate and patient and understand that it will happen, just not now, because we're humans and we're running on nothing and we need rest. Rest is awesome. I love rest. It's my favorite new thing to do.
It's good.
Yeah, and And if you do not rest, the consequence will be that you stop doing music at all, and that's not what a fan wants.
Exactly, Pia. That was exactly it. Well said.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Don't forget to follow the Bleeding Metal podcast on Spotify and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. If you want to leave us a review, that would be great as well. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everyone.